Hey, what's going on guys, Turty here, and welcome back to another Minecraft mining tutorial for version 1.15. In this tutorial we're going to be going over custom blocks and just advanced blocks. So let's get started. So first thing you're going to want to do is actually register the block as usual. So in our block init class we're going to want a public static final block, and we're going to call, well, I'm going to call this speckle block because I don't have time for names. There you go. And then we're going to want to register this in our register blocks. So event.getRegistry.register, and this is going to be a new class. So instead of doing new block, we're going to want to do something like it's going to be new and then our block class. So I'm going to do new speckle block, which obviously we haven't created that yet, but in here we're going to do the normal stuff. So block.properties dot create, and that's going to take in the material. So I'm just going to do material.iron, and then we can do .hardness and resistance. I'm going to set the hardness to 2.0 and I'm going to set the resistance to 10.0. Then we can do the harvest level, so I'm going to set that to 2, which is iron, and then the harvest tool, which is going to be tool type dot pickaxe, because obviously it's material.iron, so pickaxe just makes sense. Then I'm going to set the sound, so dot sound, and that's just going to be sound type dot. And I'm going to do glass because why not? Just add some variety. Then I'm going to add a light value. I just want to make this, quite customized. I'm going to do a light value of 4. I'm going to add it to be slippery, and the slipperiness I'm going to put as 1.2f. I'm going to do some speed factor of 0.7f. I'm going to set it so it has no drops. And obviously we need to set the registry name, so I'm going to do .set registry name, and I'm going to want to set that to speckle underscore block, and we just need to, and then I'm just going to format that. Okay, obviously we have an error there because we haven't created the class, but before we create the class we are going to register the block item. So in here we're just going to want event.getRegistry.register a new block item, and that's going to take in the block, so speckle underscore block, and then a new item dot properties. We're going to group that into our tab, so tutorial item group dot instance, and then we're going to set the registry name to speckle underscore block. There we go, and just format that to how it likes it, and voila. So now we can actually go ahead and create this block class. So this is simple to do, but because this is a custom block model, it's slightly different. So let's go into our objects package if you haven't created this already, and then blocks. In here we're going to create a new class, and obviously we're going to call this speckle block. This is just going to extend block, and just import block, get rid of that because that's the incorrect constructor, and add this constructor, get rid of that, Okay, and first thing I'm going to do is create a field, because I want this block to have a rotation. So to do that, we need to create a new property, and that would be a public static final. And because this is rotation, this is a direction property, and I'm going to call that facing, and that is going to equal horizontal block dot horizontal facing, and you just need to import direction property. We're going to have another 4 fields after this, but I'm going to do those in a minute. So then, to actually get the facing to work, we need to set it as the default state. So we can do this dot set default state in the constructor, and that will be this dot state container dot get base state dot width, and then that's going to be width facing, and the value is just direction dot north, because you want it to face north by default. And then we can go ahead and get the state for placement. So get state for placement, and it's going to be the one with context, as the other one is deprecated, I believe. And this is just going to return this dot get default state dot width facing, and then the value is context dot get placement horizontal facing dot get opposite. And this basically gets it sets the default, well, it gets the default state with the facing property, and it sets the value to be the facing but the opposite. So whichever way you're facing, it places opposite, so it faces towards you. Oh, what's happening here? Why is it doing that? There we go. And then we're going to want a few more methods. So we're going to want rotate, and we're going to want the one with just 2 parameters, so that one. Obviously this is deprecated, so I'm just going to add this comment from Forge, just like that. You don't need to add that, that just tells me that it's deprecated, but it's not that big of a deal, so don't worry. And this is just going to return state.width facing rot.rotate state.get facing. No, not get bed direction. Rot state dot get. What the heck? No, I just want like get. There you go. And then that is facing. Just like that. And then we're going to want another one which is also deprecated. So I'm just going to copy this one in. There we go, just like that. So this is just mirror. It's the same thing, but instead of rotate, well, it's basically the same thing. You don't need these 2 methods. These are just for basically compatibility with other mods. If they want to rotate your block, they might use these methods. They shouldn't do, because they're deprecated, but they might, so it's worth just adding support for it anyways. And next we're going to want the fill state container. This basically tells it what properties it should have. So, oh god, what did I just do? Stop it. And in here we're just going to do builder.add facing. And there you go, that's that done. And I'm just going to add another method. So just to make this an advanced block, when you right click it, I want it to spawn lightning. So this is slightly complicated, but not that complicated. So you're going to want the method onBlock activated. This is what is fired when the block is right clicked. And in here we're going to have if world in dot is remote. So if it's not remote, and what it means by remote is it means whether, if you just it doesn't show, hold up, it should say, it doesn't say, but it's basically a server or client. So I believe remote is client and not remote is server, I think, though I always get confused with these, so I might be wrong. No, I'm pretty sure this is server and is remote would be client, because then we're going to create the server world. So server world, and I'm just going to call that server world, is going to be equal to, and we're going to cast server world to world in, and just import server world. So that means we now have the server world of the world, and then we can do a few things with this, but we're just going to add lightning, because that's what you need to do. You need to do that on the server. So that's just a lightning bolt entity, and I'm just going to call that entity, and that's going to be equal to a new lightning bolt entity. And first thing is the world, and then is going to be pos.getX, pos.getY, pos.getZ. Now these aren't super accurate values, but you kind of have to deal with that. It's not something you can change. It's not going to be the exact X, Y, and Z. It's just rough. You can't really get the exact unless you use this, which I'm actually going to rename that to result. An effect only in is going to be false. I honestly don't know what that is, but Minecraft always does it as false, so I'm going to do it as false as well. And then you can simply do server world dot add lightning bolts, because lightning bolts are special, and that is the entity. And then at the end we can return action result type dot success, just like that. Now obviously we're missing a lot from here because I haven't done a lot yet. So first, let's look into the bounding boxes, shall we? So we're going to want a method. I'm just going to put it below the constructor so we can access it easily, and we're going to want get shape. I mean, there you go. And in here, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want a switch. So we're going to switch on state.get, and we're going to get the facing. So basically what this does is it switches on the facing. Now I'm going to create the cases. So case north, case south, I'm messing this up a lot, case east, and case west, and default. Okay, now let's just fix these up because I've broke almost all of these. Okay, there you go. Right, so we don't have anything to put in here yet. And obviously it's going to give an error because we haven't returned anything in the default. So what we're going to need to do is actually create our custom model. So I've already created this custom model in Blockbench. So if I just load up Blockbench, this is my amazing model. I actually think it's okay. And what I've done with this is I've put all the cubes in a group called voxel shapes. Now this is very important, and you basically need to use Blockbench to do this. But it needs to be in a group called voxel shapes. And then you need to go to help mod, no, not that. You need to go to, God, why can't this work? Filter, plugins, and you need to go into here, into available. Oh, that's nice. And you need to get the plugin called, let's see if I can find it, Mod Utils. So you need to go ahead and get that. And and voxel importer, that's quite useful as well. But you need to get Mod Utils, and basically what this allows you to do is export the voxel shape. So that is basically just the bounding box. And with this, you can go ahead and export it. So presuming all your cubes are in voxel shapes, you can go ahead, File, Export, and you should see Export Voxel Shape, block hitbox 1.14 plus modded only. Now if you go ahead and click export, it will try to export the voxel shape. I'm just going to put that on my desktop, so there you go. And basically if I now go on my desktop, so this is basically what it exports, and you just need to change one thing about this. You need to put on the end .git, and that will then work in the game. So if you copy that and you go into Eclipse, we can go up to the top below here, and we can do a private static final voxel shape, and I'm going to call this shape underscore n, because we need one of these for each direction, as the bounding box needs to change for each direction. And that is going to be equal to this, so what we just got. So let me just copy that, okay, and then paste it in, and just import stream, and you see there that now works. Now in here we can just return shape n in the north, and in the default we're also going to want to return shape n. If it's somehow not any of these facings, we're going to want to make sure it's just the north. And then you need to do the same for south, east and west. So you can go into Blockbench and you need to rotate this model. So I will just show you real quick. You need to rotate it. It's a bit of a pain to do, and then I'm just going to move it back to centralize it. So 1, 2, that's way too many. There you go. And then you can simply just file, export again, export voxel shape onto your desktop, open that one and copy it, put it into Eclipse. So I'm just going to do this for west, south and east. Well, I've actually already done it, so if I just do that, there you go. So there's my north, west, south and east, and you need to make sure you put a .git on the end, otherwise it will throw you an error on the whole entire line, and you know that's a bit of a pain. And then in case south, you can just return shape underscore s. In east, you can return shape underscore east, and in west you can return shape underscore west, or w. And basically that will just switch the bounding box on the facing. Now obviously this isn't going to get your block to work, this is just for the bounding box. So you also need to export the model from Blockbench. So we can actually close that class now, just import speckle block there. We can close all our Java stuff. Now if you go back into Blockbench, I'm just going to go back to that. There we go. So we're at our main facing model, and we're going to go to display. If you haven't already done this, you need to change the display settings. This is the default block, so to do that you can just go in display, apply preset, and you can apply block, weapon, rod, item, or YOS, which is one I created a while ago. And then you just need to file, export, and you need to export the block model. Now when you do this, it exports a JSON, and you can just go this will be blurred out for you, but you can go to tutorial mod, there you go, and then source, main, resources, assets, tutorial mod, models, block, and just save it in there. I've already saved it in there, so I'm not going to worry about that. And after you've done that, you can actually close Blockbench. So I don't want to save the model, so I've already saved all that. And once you've saved it in your source main resources, you should be able to go in here, models, block, and you should see it. Make sure you refresh, so if you just right click, refresh, it will appear. And yeah, that is that. So next is the block state, the lang, and the item model. These are all pretty easy, but block state is different to normal. So if we go into the block state, you can see I've already created it, and you can get it from the description. So if I open this, you can see if it's north, it's normal. If it's south, it rotates at 180 degrees. If it's west, it rotates at 270 degrees. And if it's east, it rotates at 90 degrees. That basically covers all the variants. You can also add a default, but that's not necessary. It probably would be better to add a default, but don't worry about it, to be honest. And then in your lang, it's just a normal line, so block.tutorialmod.speckleblock, and that is just going to be special block. Then in our models item, it's the same as any other block item. So where is it? Speckle block. It just parents off the block model. So just like a normal block item. And then the textures, if you have custom textures, you'll actually need to change the block model. Oh, and you also need to make sure the parent is block/cube. So you will need to change that. But I'm just using vanilla textures. Say you're using a texture in your mod, however, this would need to be blocks, and you need to change it to, for example, tutorial mod : and blocks/andesite. I don't have andesite, but I don't know, what do I have? Example _block, and that will just make that my block. In fact, yeah, I'll keep it as that. And then the particle is blocks/andesite still. And this is basically the block model. You're never going to want to write this out because it's painful. So, you know, you just get Blockbench to do it yourself. But yeah, so once you've done that, we can load into the game. So yeah, I will see you guys in the game. Okay, so as you can see, I am now in the game. I've gone in my creative tab right here and got the block out. You see my amazing textures. There's the block, so speckle block. And when I place this down, you should see it faces me, just like that. And it has the correct bounding box. If I step on it, you know, it works as a block. I move really slowly because I changed that movement factor. And I also added slipperiness. When I place it a different direction, you can see it continues to face me. The bounding box changes. Oh, I clicked it accidentally. I'll show you that in a second. And when I break it, it's glass, but it has andesite particles. It's very strange. As you can see, when I place it down and right click, it summons lightning. Voila! There you go. I apologise if that's loud. That might be really loud. That also might have echoed because it's coming through my speakers. I apologise greatly. But yeah, that tree's now gone. But you know, it's a thing you can do. You can place it in any direction. Bounding box to the right in any direction. Obviously it doesn't burn because, yeah, I set it not to burn. I still haven't cancelled this jump event. I need to cancel that because it's really lagging again, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it all works. So yeah, so if you guys did enjoy this tutorial, please be sure to smash your face in that like button and subscribe. If you really enjoyed, please be sure to share it. And yeah, the next video is I don't remember. I have it planned though, or I had it planned. It might be entities, I think, is what I said it would be. So that'll be exciting. You can see my amazing entity modeling, which is totally, great. So yeah, I will see you guys then. Goodbye.